Tate Chronicles now transmitting.
Welcome to the Tate Chronicles on Healthcare Now Radio. And now, here's your host, Jim Tate.
Good day, citizens of the free world, from border to border, coast to coast, and to all the ships at sea, I bring you a warm welcome. This is your correspondent, Jim Tate, and thank you for tuning into the Tate Chronicles. I've got a special episode recorded live at HIMSS25 in Las Vegas, where I'll be speaking with two guests. My first guest is none other than Russell Teague, the CISO of the Fortified Health Solution. Russell, thanks for joining me today live at HIMSS 2025.
Jim, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
I know you're one of the presenters here at HIMSS this year, and you gave a presentation, I believe, entitled The Human Side of Healthcare Security Operations Centers.
Yep.
Give me a little feedback on that, if you would, and what are some of the three main takeaways you hope folks would get from your presentation? Yeah, absolutely. The human side of cybersecurity centers, or cyber centers, SOCs is what we call them generally. Yeah, sure.
There's really three main components of that, right? One is, so oftentimes organizations think about a SOC as a tool, right, or a set of tools, right, whether it be MDR, EDR, SIM, connected med, and those things.
Sure.
And so within healthcare, right, the SOC has to be very unique, right? And so at Fortified, we run a managed security SOC for ourselves, but we're exclusively to healthcare, right? And that really sets us apart because we bring the skilled expertise and the knowledge and processes associated with healthcare. Healthcare is really struggling with the overall state of cybersecurity and how to implement it. No other industry in the world has human life connected to technology, right? And so that means you have to make very different choices associated with, when you detect things and how you respond to them.
Well, the human side. What is the human side?
Yeah. The human side is actually the humans, right? That sit in the SOC, the 24/7 SOC. The difference is if you go to industry SOCs that are non-healthcare centric, right? They may have banking and finance expertise. They may have oil and gas. They may have utilities. Very few of them actually have healthcare expertise. And that's the unique difference. They'll make recommendations to try to close vulnerabilities and exposures that won't work in healthcare because we still have legacy technology that we can't get rid of. It's still a functional device running an MRI machine, running, oncology, running your ED department. So,
Russell, one of the things I'm really aware of is that if a bad actor is, and I'm also focused on healthcare as you are, if a bad actor comes in and strikes a vendor, the potential for downstream effects. I mean, we recently, in the last year, had a hack that took out a major billing operation.
Yep.
Providers across the country could not collect money for months.
That's correct.
So that kind of goes to the uniqueness of what you're talking about.
Yeah, third-party risk is real in healthcare.
Yeah.
Right? It's up 68%. Year over year, and we're starting to see that definitely as an attack vector more and more, where they're going after, it's the one-to-many effect, right? If I hack into one third-party provider, they're generally connected to hundreds, if not thousands, of other organizations. And so if you hack into that one third party, now you've got access to execute down those channels. And so,
I know you have you've introduced a new module to the Fortified Central Command called, I believe, Escalation IQ. First, tell me a little bit about what Fortified Central Command is, and then this new modification.
Yes. So Fortified Central Command is not something we sell. It's not a product to us. It's actually how we deliver our services.
Okay.
So think of it for us is the collaboration and engagement platform. So all of our services, whether it be our 24/7 SOC services or our advisory services, our RA, our pen testing, our vulnerability services, are all delivered through the platform, right? So think of it as a central command for communication and collaboration. And it's a single pane of glass for your entire cyber program, right? All the enterprise risk management elements are there. All of the annual risk analysis, the corrective action plans are there. It's a place to store all your policies and procedures. One place to go to really begin to manage your cybersecurity program.
So I'm just kind of curious who your customers are. Are they hospital systems who reach out to you?
Yeah, predominantly health providers, so health systems, both small, regional, mid enterprise, and full enterprise accounts, but also payers, plan providers, right? Pharmaceuticals, post-acute care facilities, so across the gamut, right?
And so, really talking about the threats to cybersecurity, healthcare data, reimbursement data, all that kind of things. Where's the greatest threat? Where's the lowest level of threat? I mean, based on your experience, your company's experience, where's the nuclear threat we need to be worried about the most?
Well, I think it's a great question, but I think you have to step back and think about what threat actors are actually going after to begin with.
Correct.
Which is really the data, right? So the underlying gold in these organizations is the data itself. So some very interesting stats. Less than 3% of cyber attacks today involve EMRs.
Really?
The electronic medical record systems, right? So that is the secure system that we keep all of our medical records in. But 97% of the hacks don't involve an EMR. It's the unstructured data that we as a business process extract out of the EMR and use it for research, use it for clinical analysis, use it for university, use it to just run the business in general, right? Whether it be payments or other activities. So they're saving the data. The business process extracts the data, saves it on local drives or in file shares, SharePoint sites, emails, right? And so when an individual gets hacked, right, because generally still the number one way in is through phishing, email phishing and social engineering.
Yeah.
And so when that individual gets caught either up in a phish or clicks on a bad malicious link, they open the door, they invite the threat actor in, and then they use that to escalate privilege. And they don't need to escalate privilege to Fort Knox. They don't need to go all the way to where the gold is stored because we sprinkle the gold out all over the place.
Exactly.
And so once they begin to escalate privilege and laterally move within the network, right, they just find all the data stored throughout in unprotected, unencrypted ways. Yeah. So data governance and data security is the number one threat for healthcare.
One thing, Russell, I think about sometimes is probably the most recent scenario foundation for interoperability is the coming Tefka network.
Yeah.
It's live, but it needs to grow quite a bit for its full function. If some bad actor, they don't even have to hack that actively.
Right.
If they can have access to that data, they can pull in so much data.
Oh, 100%.
And so, what are your thoughts about that? Is it
interoperability obviously was designed so that the data and the records follows the patient regardless of whichever provider they go to. So if you go to a specialist today and go to another specialist tomorrow, your patient records follow you, and you're traveling internationally, you can still get those records. Well, HIEs are the biggest, health information exchanges are the biggest catalyst for that to happen. They're also the biggest aggregator of data, right? And if data is the gold that everyone's looking for, that's ultimately, that's one of those central points of weaknesses within the environment that's obviously under a target attack.
Absolutely. It's kind of funny, not funny, I guess, but often it's said that the greatest repository of healthcare data is what the third-party insurers have.
Right.
Because everybody's going to report to them to get paid. Are they doing the appropriate things, or are they behind the curve? And what are your thoughts on that?
In general, when you look across healthcare, healthcare is about 15 years behind the curve in terms of adoption of cybersecurity and the implementing of the basics.
Yes.
You think about the 4 challenges that we see in healthcare: workforce, human capital is the number one challenge, having the right skilled resources.
Sure.
That's why part of the original talk was around the human side of SOC.
Right.
Because it's the capital problem, human capital problem. The second area is the technology complexities associated with both legacy technology as well as the continued advancing of technology, like no conversation, I'm going to breach the topic, AI, right? No topic, right? And so that technology complexity creates a significant challenge for healthcare. The financial pressures associated with running on extremely low margins is another element. So you can't make broad sweeping decisions. You have to make very small tweaks over long periods of time. And then the threat landscape, which continues to evolve, right? Healthcare being now the 14th year of being the number one targeted sector in the world.
I bet.
Right? And the average cost of healthcare data on the black market's over $500 per element, per patient, versus a credit card's now $5.
Yes.
The order of magnitude between the two is significant.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's why it's so lucrative for the threat actors and nation-state crime organizations to do it. The more U.S. begins to put sanctions on, third-party countries, North Korea and such, Russia, right? Their activities in the threat world is only going to go up. And where are they going to get that money? From healthcare.
Something else I think about, Russell, is as the types of threats evolve over time, and being aware of maybe the most significant threats and moving forward, is there any place for AI in identifying the patterns of different waves of threats over time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
AI will be one transformational change for healthcare and the driving quality outcomes for patients, but it's also a very important element on how we defend against some of the third-party cyber attacks as well, right? The only thing you're going to be able to defeat AI is AI itself, right?
Yes.
The speed at which it knowledge and learn and it's reacting. So it's going to be an integrated part of how we defend our networks going forward, both enabling greater outcomes on one hand, but also defending and protecting ourselves from it.
Yeah.
The threat actors are using it as well, right? Deep fakes and video and all the other stuff, right? So they're learning and using it and obviously getting significantly better at it. So cyber attacks, that's kind of a low risk crime for people to, whether it's a crime or it's a political thing or what else.
Right. It's a lot different than committing other kind of crimes, because you can hide behind, all kind of computerized firewalls and IP addresses and everything else. I don't see an end to the need for evolving cybersecurity, because the threat's going to escalate and evolve over time.
Yeah, the only way it begins to change, threat actors are traditionally lazy. They go after the easy money. Right. And as long as healthcare is easy data, easy access, easy conversion of a high dollar value, $500 per patient record, then they're going to keep coming. And so you have to keep raising the bar. Implementing more and more security parameters that makes it more difficult for them to get access to the data. When we do that, we'll start reaching a tipping point.
Exactly. Well, I hope this has been a good HIMSS conference for you so far. We're just in the, first day of it.
Yeah.
Seems like it's been going on for about 3 days.
I know.
No doubt about that. Yeah. But Russell, thanks for joining me on this special episode of the Tate Chronicles. Appreciate it very much.
Jim, thank you so much.
And of course, we are live from HIMSS25 and looking forward to, certainly around cybersecurity related issues and anything else of significance. One last quick word. If folks want to get in touch with you or your organization, where should they go?
They should go to www.fortifiedhealthsecurity.com.
Okay, very good. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Welcome back to the Tate Chronicles and our live recording at HIMSS 2025. I'm your host, Jim Tate, and my second guest is Jeffrey Sullivan, the CTO at Consensus. Jeffrey, welcome to the Tate Chronicles, and we're live at HIMSS 25.
Well, thank you for having me, Jim.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to talk to you a little about is, improved data security, clinical data security. And there's an unlikely tool, that's the digital cloud fax. There have been so many efforts to move technology forward in terms of security and interoperability, but not every healthcare organization has the resources to comply. So tell me a little bit about eFax and discrete data. What can you tell me about it?
Sure. So I think you're right. There is a lot of conversation around security. Obviously, our healthcare data is one of the most sensitive types of data that we use in any kind of a business within the world today, but especially in the healthcare sector, people's sensitive health information, personal health information, EPHI. These are things that are particularly sensitive, and rightfully so. Security is a significant factor. So at Consensus, we have a number of different healthcare-focused fax products: eFax Corporate, eFax Protect, SFax, SRFax. And one of the things that we really think long and hard about when we think about security is, obviously everybody in the healthcare space is worried about, HIPAA compliance.
Sure.
And for us, the best sort of benchmark of HIPAA compliance, and the challenge with HIPAA and high tech, is that it is largely a self-reported adherence standard, right? So you often have to trust the vendor when they say, yes, I am HIPAA compliant, I am doing all of the things that the High Tech Act requires and that the HIPAA regulations require. And so what has evolved out of that is the HITRUST certification process, which is an external certification, at least at the highest levels of HITRUST, and I'll touch on that in a second. But I think that HITRUST has really taken all of the best security practices out there, not only those required by HIPAA and high tech, but also some of the other major security frameworks, cybersecurity and technical security frameworks out there in the world, and it's applied them into a unified framework that the healthcare industry as a whole has really embraced. And at the top, the pinnacle of HITRUST is the R2 certification, which is requires external auditing at the highest levels, and that is what our eFax product, what our SFax product has been certified as HITRUST compliant with at the R2 level. So always, every year, audited by external auditors, accredited auditors. In our case, Coalfire, who is just a phenomenal, highly reputable external auditor. And what that does is it gives our customers the comfort that not only are we doing all of the good things that it comes to be done with respect to HITRUST, HIPAA, and general cybersecurity, but that we're not just take our word for it. This is being audited by highly reputable external companies. There are some lower levels of HITRUST certification, which are self-assessments, which are sort of similar to what might happen with lower levels of PCI compliance, which is on the payment side, where you can self-attest, and then eventually at the higher levels, you start to get external auditors that certify you. So I would say look for the highest level of certification. All of the major cloud fax providers, digital cloud fax providers in the healthcare space that focus very heavily on healthcare space, as we do, really go after that highest level of certification. But that's one thing, and so that's the stuff that we do, and that's interesting for us. And obviously, it resonates really well with all of our healthcare customers. We take tremendous care with this data because our customers need us to take tremendous care with that data, and they need to also rep and ensure that they're doing it as well. What's interesting for us, though, is some new developments that we've been involved with. So the Direct Trust Consortium recently recognized that fax is just an endemic part of the entire healthcare ecosystem when it comes to data exchange. And depending on, organizations vary, but depending on who you ask and how you measure it, it's still the case that faxing in general is responsible for something, either a significant minority or a majority of the actual health data exchange between healthcare organizations, participants, providers, payers, and so forth in the healthcare space, at least in the U.S. And that's a real challenge that people like, or organizations like Direct Trust have tried to address with, their direct secure messaging and TIM and TIM Plus initiatives. They were actually ones that had talked about an Axe the Fax campaign because they felt like it had some inherent problems. Well, in the spirit of if you can't beat them, join them, Direct Trust came around and said, you know what? Cloud fax isn't going anywhere. We need to take this and bring fax into healthcare at the same way that we brought what effectively was email in with direct secure messaging. And it's basically, there is a means by this pervasive communication mechanism used in healthcare can be made to adopt all of those same standards. And I'm super proud to say that Consensus is a member of the ANSI consensus body that is working on the interoperable secure cloud fax standard. Under the auspices of Direct Trust, I happen to have the honor of having been selected as the chair of this consensus body, and I was the chair of the working group prior to that did the initial analysis and made the recommendation to Direct Trust that we do set up our ANSI standards body, which we're now working on. So I would love to talk a little bit about the work that's going on there,
Sure.
and really the goals that we're trying to accomplish there, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought the point up, Jeffrey, because I'd like a little education. I keep hearing about the interoperable secure cloud fax standards.
Mm-hmm.
What are those? I think that's what you're about to tell me.
Exactly. So what we talked about there and what we're working on creating is basically, the headline version of it is we're going to do for fax what direct secure messaging did for email communication and what the trusted instant messaging or the TIM standard did for texting, which is you take a commonly used, and pervasive communication mechanism and you add to it the robust identity assurance, security parameters, metadata enhancements that make it more interoperable when it comes to the healthcare space specifically, but when it comes to interoperable secure cloud fax, our intention is that this is broadly usable, in places where any regulated industry would make use of it. Now, that's obviously very heavily used in healthcare, so healthcare is definitely the primary focus for interoperable secure cloud fax. But we really do believe, much like direct secure messaging could be used in other industries as well, that interoperable secure cloud fax can be used in other industries that care about the security of their transmissions, the security of understanding who is sending and who is receiving, that identity assurance and identity provisioning, all of those things. So what we do in this standard is we take existing ANSI standards around fax communication and we extend those with additional elements that really deal with a certain amount of very specific things. Number one, we deal with identity establishment and identity assurance. So who are you? We get people identity proofed or entities identity proofed as they're put on here. And then we use cryptographic or technological means to ensure that I am Jeff Sullivan. I am Dr. Jeff Sullivan. I've just given myself a promotion, and I am an internist, and I work at Cedars in South Los Angeles. And this is my exact identity for this fax endpoint. It is Dr. Jeff Sullivan's office, and he's with Cedars in their South LA office. Another one might be the radiology department at a local radiology practice, or it may be the pre-op facility at a local hospital. Every one of these endpoints will have identity proofed and identity assured connections so that you know who you're receiving and you can only receive from other people that you know who is sending. This is one of the big challenges with fax is that while you can suspect who is sending or receiving a fax, you can't be sure of it. And much like direct secure messaging does that with SMTP-based communications, we're doing that for fax. So identity proofing and assurance is one thing. The next thing that we talk about is being able to establish an extended amount of metadata so that you know sort of what is this fax, what extra information about it can I give you to make it easier for you to route it, put it into the appropriate workflow, get it where it needs to go as quickly as possible. Because I'll tell you, nobody faxes to say, hey, how you doing? Or to look at vacation brochures in healthcare, right? They're doing it because they have patient care things that are happening. Sure. And so knowing what this is and how to get it put into process is one of the big challenges with existing fax standards, right? You get it in there, and then often in the workflow, there's a person on the other end who receives that fax, looks at it, maybe they print it out, maybe it's coming off of an old legacy paper fax machine. And then they have to look at this and say, what is this? Now what do I do with it? Maybe they have to rekey that data if it's not in digital format. And these are just inefficiencies when it comes to the operation of fax. So what we're going to be doing with interoperable secure cloud fax is, as the name suggests, it's secure, right? We're talking about identity assurance. We're talking about communication security. We're talking about taking all of those things that work really great in these other technologies like FHIR, direct secure messaging, et cetera, and applying those to interoperable secure cloud fax. And then we're also talking about making sure that the contents are secured in transit, they're secured in delivery, so that you can be sure that anybody who is an interoperable secure cloud fax provider is absolutely HIPAA compliant, high-tech compliant, all of these things, because those are going to be part of the requirements for becoming an ISCF provider. So you get this great assurance that the people who are doing this are highly secure, highly capable, that the information is more secure, more knowable for you, and also that the information you're getting is more robust and more detailed and more usable for you immediately and in an automated way than might be the case with either paper fax for sure, or even other digital cloud faxes that are not interoperable secure cloud faxes. So that's the intent that we're going after here. The standards body is working through the standard specifications right now, and we're hoping to have a draft standard for industry review and commentary later this year.
Wow. So later this year, I had no idea that the, maybe initial recommendations for review would be coming out this year. That's great.
That is our intention. And what we're trying to do is leverage as much of the existing interoperable standards that Direct Trust has already got out there so that we can make the lift for customers to adopt this as light as possible.
Well, Jeffrey, we're almost totally out of time. But before I let you go, for our listeners who are interested in learning more about what Consensus is doing, and I imagine your website probably has some information about these new secure cloud fax standards. Where can they go to find out more about Consensus and about these standards also?
Absolutely. So you can learn more about Consensus and all of our offerings. Obviously, we offer digital cloud faxing, but we also offer some other interoperability and signature solutions. And you can find our products at consensus.com. So very easy to find there. I would also love, and maybe we can put in your the commentary under this podcast, some link to the interoperable secure cloud fax standards body.
Okay.
Would love to get more industry involvement in that. So if people are interested in either being voting members with Direct Trust membership or observer members or industry members, always interested in having more participation in that as well. So we can provide those links as well. I can't say those because they're a big long URL, but we can put a link.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It'll be in the description.
Perfect.
Well, Jeffrey, thanks for joining me on this special episode of the Tate Chronicles live from HIMSS 2025.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I enjoyed it. You can find more information on this show's program page at healthcarenowradio.com. That's healthcarenowradio.com. Until we meet again, here's wishing you smooth sailing and safe harbors.
Tate Chronicles transmission ending now.